Jake had never imagined his life would lead him to space, let alone aboard an alien spacecraft. He had signed up for the mission, not fully understanding what he was getting into. But he trusted that it would be an experience that would change his life. The offer had come suddenly, a chance to be part of the first ever intergalactic exploration. The excitement of being chosen for such a prestigious role had drowned out his worries. He had no idea just how different this journey would turn out to be. As soon as he boarded the massive spaceship, a sense of unease washed over him. The walls of the ship were a smooth, metallic gray, pulsing with faint blue light. Strange alien symbols glowed softly on the walls, and the air was thick with the scent of unknown materials. Every corner seemed to hold secrets he couldn't begin to understand. Jake had always been fascinated by space, but the reality was far different from what he had imagined. The ship was silent, the hum of machinery the only sound that broke the stillness. No one seemed to speak much, and the Corellian beings, who were unlike anything Jake had ever seen, moved around him with a purpose that left him feeling like an outsider. They didn't speak his language, and he was left to wonder how he could possibly communicate with them. The only person who seemed to acknowledge his presence was Alela, the ship's navigator. She was an alien, tall and graceful, with bright violet eyes that seemed to pierce through him as if she could read his every thought. Her skin was a soft shade of blue, and her hair shimmered like starlight. There was something hypnotic about her, something both unsettling and magnetic. When Jake first saw her, he was struck by her beauty and the authority she carried in every movement. She seemed to know exactly what she was doing, like she had been on this mission 1,000 times before. But it was the way she looked at him, those violet eyes that never seemed to blink, that made him feel uneasy. She would often watch him, with an intensity that he couldn't explain, as though she was trying to understand him. He had tried to speak to her when he first boarded, but she had brushed him off with a quiet smile, not giving him the answers he was hoping for. The language barrier was difficult to overcome, and Jake quickly realized that the mission wasn't as simple as he had imagined. There was something hidden beneath the surface of this journey, something that wasn't being shared with him. Alela's cabin was located in a quiet corner of the ship, away from the rest of the crew. It was a small, dark room, with no windows to the stars. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of something metallic. Jake had been asked to meet her there, and despite his hesitation, he obeyed. It wasn't uncommon for the crew to call him in for briefings or checks, but there was something different about this meeting, something that made his heart beat a little faster. As he approached her door, he noticed that it was slightly ajar. The faint glow of light from within flickered, casting long shadows across the hallway. He hesitated for a moment, then stepped. Inside, Alel was standing by the door, her back to him, looking out over the starry expanse of space. Her violet eyes sparkled as she turned to face him, a smile playing on her lips. "Come in." "Jake," she said, her voice smooth and calm, like a soft melody. Jake entered the room, still unsure of what to expect. She closed the door behind him with a soft click, and for a moment, the silence between them was deafening. "I have a task for you," Ella said, her gaze never leaving his face. "A task that could change everything for you." Jake raised an eyebrow. "What kind of task?" Alaa smirked slightly, her lips curling into a mysterious smile. "You'll find out soon enough." Her voice was laced with a hint of amusement, but Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. There was something hidden beneath her calm exterior, something he didn't understand. She gestured toward a strange device in the corner of the room. It looked like a small, intricate machine, with several buttons and glowing lights. Jake stepped closer to it, his curiosity getting the better of him. "What is this?" he asked, reaching out to touch it. Alaa's smile widened. "Part of the plan. But before you touch anything, you should know that this journey is unlike anything you've ever experienced. You're not just a passenger on this ship, Jake. You have a role to play, a role you might not fully understand yet." Jake's pulse quickened. He didn't like the way she said that. There was something more to this mission than he had been told. But what? Suddenly, the door behind them slid open, and a cold draft swept into the room. La's expression shifted, her eyes narrowed, and the playful smile faded. She turned, and in that moment, Jake realized that whatever this mission was, it was far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The door closed with a quiet hiss, leaving just the two of them in the room. Aless smirked again. "It's just the two of us here, Jake," she whispered, her voice low and filled with a hint of something dark. Jake's heart raced. He had no idea what he was walking into, but one thing was certain: this wasn't just a mission. This was a journey into the unknown. There was no turning back. Jake stood frozen for a moment, still processing Ayla's cryptic words. Her voice lingered in the air, echoing in his mind like a warning. "It's just the two of us here." The silence between them was thick, pressing in on him, making the small cabin feel even smaller. The strange hum of the ship that had once seemed so distant now seemed overwhelming. He tried to steady his breath, his thoughts a blur. He had come aboard this ship with nothing but curiosity and the excitement of exploration. But now, with Ella standing in front of him, something felt deeply wrong. Presence, her calm demeanor, and the way she watched him so intently, it was like she could see straight through him, peeling away layers he didn't even know existed. Ayla wasn't like any alien he'd seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly under the low light, the color of a twilight sky in her eyes. Those piercing violet orbs seemed to hold centuries of knowledge and mystery. Her beauty was undeniable, but there was something more, something unsettling. She was composed, confident, and there was an underlying power in the way she moved. She didn't just belong to this ship, she commanded it. But Jake wasn't sure what he should think of her. Was she really here to help him, or was she playing a game he didn't understand? She didn't break eye contact as she motioned for him to sit. "I know you have questions, Jake, but you must understand, this mission is unlike anything you've ever been prepared for." Jake lowered himself onto a chair across from her, his hands shaking slightly. "What do you mean?" "I thought we were here to explore, to study the galaxy." Alla's lips curved into a knowing smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Exploration is a surface-level goal. What we're after is far more important, far more dangerous." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "We are not alone in this galaxy, Jake. There are other forces out there, far more powerful than you can imagine, forces that do not wish for your kind to survive." Jake felt a chill run through him. He had known there were dangers in space, but this was different. "What do you mean? Are you saying there are others out there who want to wipe us out?" Allah didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped to the window, her eyes scanning the infinite void of space outside. "This ship, this mission, it's all part of a larger plan. A plan to ensure the survival of humanity. And, if we're successful, to make sure we are not crushed under the weight of forces far beyond our understanding." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. And Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was only seeing a fraction of the truth. She was hiding something. He could feel it. But what was she really after? "Then why me?" Jake asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why was I chosen for this? I'm just a pilot, not some soldier or scientist." Ella turned to face him, her eyes glowing in the dim light. "You're more than just a pilot, Jake. You've always been more. You've been chosen because you have the potential to help us understand things your kind has never dared to explore. You've been exposed to certain technologies, certain experiences that make you uniquely qualified for this mission." Felt his heart race again. "What are you talking about?" Allah's gaze never wavered. She walked closer to him, her steps silent, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. "The mission is not about the stars or galaxies. It's about power, Jake. The power to change the course of humanity's future." She paused, her voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "You, my friend, are the key." Jake's stomach tightened. This was not the mission he had signed up for. He had thought he was here to help explore the unknown, but now it seemed as if he had become part of a much larger, much darker game. "I don't understand. How could I be the key to something like that?" Allah's smile returned, this time colder, sharper. "The key lies within you, Jake. You've experienced things that no human should. You've been exposed to technology beyond your comprehension. Your mind, your memories, they've been altered. shaped by experiences you don't fully remember. Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. What are you saying? Gala stepped back, giving him space. You don't know the truth yet, but you will. I've been assigned to help you remember. There's something I need you to understand. The truth comes with a price. You will have to choose who you trust, what you fight for, and ultimately, what kind of person you want to become in this new reality. Her words were both a promise and a warning, and Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. There was so much she wasn't telling him, so many layers he couldn't yet peel back. And the more she spoke, the more he realized just how little control he had over the situation. Why should I trust you? Jake's voice trembled, but he couldn't help it. There was something unnerving about Iella. She wasn't just an alien. She was a puzzle, a riddle wrapped in mystery. Allah's eyes glowed with an almost imperceptible intensity. Because Jake, I'm the only one who can show you the way. Without me, you'll be lost. As the weight of her words settled over him, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that his journey had only just begun, that he was already in too deep to turn back. Jake had always imagined that being in space would be an adventure, a chance to witness the wonders of the galaxy, meet new beings, and push the limits of human exploration. But now, in the cold, sterile cabin of the alien ship, the reality of his situation began to settle like a weight on his chest. Every corner of the ship seemed to close in on him. He was no longer just a passenger. He was a pawn in a game he didn't understand, and the pieces were moving faster than he could keep up with. Alela had said he was the key, but to what? She had dropped so many cryptic hints about the mission, about his purpose, but never gave him anything concrete to hold on to. Instead, she wrapped him in layers of mystery, each one thicker than the last, making it impossible to see through the fog. His mind raced as he tried to process everything. What was it about him that made him special? It was just a regular human, nothing extraordinary. He had signed up for the mission because it sounded like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but now it felt more like a trap. The more Alela spoke, the more it seemed like there was something hidden from him. Something important. Jake wandered the hallways of the ship, trying to clear his mind. He needed answers, but no one on this ship seemed willing to give him any. The alien crew moved past him without acknowledging his presence, their stoic faces a constant reminder that he was the outsider here. No one cared to explain anything to him except for Alela, and that, in itself, was unsettling. There was a difference between guiding someone and manipulating them. The more Jake thought about it, the more his suspicions grew. Allah's behavior hurt. Perfect composure. Her hidden smiles had always felt calculated. There was a coldness to her that he couldn't ignore. She was not just a navigator. She was something else. And Jake needed to find out what that something was. He turned a corner and found himself at a large metallic door. The hum of the ship's engines seemed louder here, almost as if it was calling him. Hesitantly, he reached out and pushed the door open. To his surprise, it wasn't locked. Inside, the room was dark, with only a few dim lights scattered around the walls. But at the far end, a large holographic screen flickered to life as soon as he stepped inside. Jake froze. This wasn't just any room. The screen displayed a map of the galaxy far more detailed than anything he'd ever seen. And in the center, there was a blinking red dot. Before he could make sense of it, the door slid open behind him, and Alela stepped inside. She didn't speak right away, but the way she looked at him made his skin crawl. She was calm, almost too calm, as if she had known he would find this room. "I see you've discovered the control center," she said, her voice smooth but carrying an underlying tension. Jake glanced at the screen again. The red dot was still there, pulsing steadily. "What is this?" he asked, his voice shaky. "What's the significance of this map? Why is this happening?" Alela smiled, but it didn't. "Reach her eyes. That red dot represents a threat that's been slowly moving toward us for a long time. It's not just any threats, an entire species of beings far beyond anything your people have encountered. They've been watching humanity for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike." Jake's heart raced. The weight of her words was suffocating. He had expected some explanation, but this This was too much. "You're telling me there's an alien species planning to wipe us out?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Allah's eyes flashed with something cold and unfeeling. "Not just wipe you out, Jake. They intend to take over. Civilization is powerful, and they've already infiltrated parts of your planet. This mission, this ship, it's humanity's last hope." Jake's stomach twisted into knots. This was more than he had signed up for, far more. He was just a pilot, simple human with no special training, no understanding of what was really going on. But now he was the key. It didn't make sense. "I don't know if I can do this," Jake admitted, his voice shaking. "I'm just not cut out for it. Whatever this is, I never signed up for a war." Allah's expression softened, but only for a moment. She walked closer to him, her footsteps silent on the metal floor. "No one ever does, Jake. But sometimes you don't have a choice." She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're already part of this, whether you like it or not. Your role in this mission is far more important than you realize." Jake took a step back. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of how out of his depth he was. Allah wasn't just pushing him into this mission, he was pulling him into something much darker, much more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. "I need you to understand," Alel continued, her voice steady and calculating. "The only way to stop them is to work with me. But to do that, you need to trust me completely. Trust that everything I've told you is true." Jake's mind reeled, but one thing was certain. He couldn't trust her. He had no idea what Alel was really after, and her cold, calculated demeanor made it hard to tell if she was being honest or manipulating him further. "Why should I trust you?" Jake asked, the question leaving his lips before he could stop it. Allah's smile was thin and calculating. "Because, Jake, if you don't, you'll be the first one they come for." The finality in her words hit him like a punch to the gut. He was trapped there, was no turning back. The tension between them had reached a boiling point. Jake realized that whatever lay ahead, he would have to decide who to trust, what to believe, and ultimately, what he was willing to fight for. As Alela turned to leave, Jake was left standing alone in the room, the galaxy map still glowing ominously in front of him. The stakes had never been higher, and the answers had never been farther away. The hum of the spaceship's engines had become a constant companion, a reminder of the strange world Jake now found himself trapped in. It had been days since he first met Alela, and the more he learned, the more confusing everything became. Had expected a simple space mission, something thrilling but ultimately about discovery. Instead, he was trapped in a high-stakes war, with humanity's survival hanging in the balance. And the worst part? He wasn't sure who to trust. Not Alela, not the crew, and definitely not himself. Jake paced the small quarters assigned to him, trying to make sense of what had happened. The walls, lined with strange symbols and glowing lights, seemed to press in on him with every step. He had been part of something far bigger than he ever imagined, and now he was struggling to find his place in it. The more Ela spoke, the more it became clear that humanity was not just fighting for survival against an alien species, they were fighting for their future, for their place in a galaxy that had long since forgotten them. The threat wasn't just an invading force, it was something far more insidious, something that had been manipulating events for centuries. Jake wasn't just a witness to this struggle, he was now a player in it. Whether he liked it or not, a sudden chime interrupted his thoughts. It was a message, a private one. Jake hesitated, wondering whether to ignore it. The curiosity got the better of him. He tapped the screen on the wall and Allah's face appeared, her violet eyes gleaming in the low light. "I thought you might want to know, Jake," Allah said, her voice colder than usual. "There's something I didn't tell. You, something I couldn't." Jake's stomach tightened.
What do you mean?
He asked, his voice cautious. He had learned not to trust her easily, but now a sense of dread was creeping up on him. Every word from Alela was a double-edged sword, cutting deeper into his already fragile trust. "Everything I told you," she continued, "about the mission. The invasion is true, but there's more to it. Much more. You're part of it." Jake's heart raced. "What do you mean I'm part of it?" he asked. He had never considered himself anything other than a pilota, simple person who had gotten caught in a cosmic game he didn't understand. But now the walls between him and Alela seemed to be closing in, and something deep within him urged him to be careful. Allah's expression hardened. You've been exposed to alien technology, Jake. Much more than you realize. I told you that you were the key to this mission, but what I didn't tell you is that you are not just the key, you are the catalyst.
Oh.
Jake felt a chill run through. Him, the catalyst for what? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Alela took a deep breath before answering. The technology we've been searching for, the power we need to defeat them, it's hidden inside you, inside your mind. It's not just about fighting the enemy. It's about unlocking a force that's been dormant for centuries. You've been chosen because you have the ability to access that power. The words didn't make sense. How could he, a simple human, be the one to unlock something so powerful? He had always felt ordinary, insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But now, Alela was telling him he was more than that. He was a key to something ancient, something that could change the course of history. You're lying, Jake whispered, his voice trembling. He couldn't believe it. There had to be a mistake. Alela's eyes softened for a moment, but then her gaze turned steely. I'm not lying, Jake. This is bigger than you and me. This is about the survival of humanity. It's about your people having a chance in a galaxy that's far more dangerous than you realize. Jake backed away from the screen, his mind racing. Oh, did this happen? How am I part of this? Alela's voice grew colder. It happened when you were exposed to the first alien artifact during your training. The ship's systems were programmed to scan you and extract your memories, your knowledge. But something else happened. We didn't expect it to trigger so soon, but the artifact activated your latent abilities. You've always had the potential, Jake, but now it's awake. The room around Jake seemed to tilt, the walls closing in. His head throbbed as memories flashes of strange encounters, whispered voices, and mysterious symbols began to resurface. It wasn't just a mission he had been chosen for. It was something far greater, something that had been hidden from him, even from his own mind. And now, it was starting to come back. I didn't ask for this, Jake said, his voice shaking with anger and fear. I didn't ask to be part of your plan. Allah's expression remained unchanged. No one ever does, Jake, but sometimes the universe doesn't care what we want. It only cares about what we can become. A heavy silence settled between them. Jake's mind was spinning, trying to process what he had just heard. He was part of something that transcended anything he could have imagined, and no matter how much he tried to deny it, there was no going back. Allah's face disappeared from the screen, replaced by the empty void of space. But Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, something inside him. He'd been thrust into a game that was far beyond his understanding, and now there was no turning back. The power inside him was real, and if he wanted to survive, he would have to accept it. But there was one thing Jake knew for sure. Trusting Alela might be the only way to survive this. If he could find a way to trust her at all. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his hands as if they could give him answers. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of the ship's internal lights. His mind buzzed with the weight of everything Alela had revealed to him. Power inside, him latent, dormant, and now awake, was not something he had ever asked for. He had been thrust into this war, this battle for humanity's survival, without warning. But what was the next step? Allah's words haunted him. You're the catalyst, the key. He had to do something, but the enormity of the situation left him paralyzed. There was no going back. He couldn't pretend this was just a mission to explore the stars anymore. This was about power, survival, and an ancient force that lay hidden within him. And somewhere in the dark corners of the ship, a war was brewing, one that he might be the only one capable of ending. A sudden knock at the door startled him out of his thoughts. Come in, Jake called out, his voice sounding more strained than he intended. The door slid open, and Alela stepped inside, her presence as commanding as ever. Her violet eyes gleamed, but her usual calm demeanor seemed to have shifted. There was a new intensity in her movements, an urgency that wasn't there before. "We don't have much time," she said quietly, closing the door behind her. Her tone was all business, and there was no trace of the coldness she had shown earlier. Jake stood, his heart racing. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Allah's expression darkened. "The enemy is closer than we thought. They've already infiltrated parts of your planet. This ship was never meant to be a sanctuary, it's a weapon. We're the one who's going to wield it." Jake's stomach tightened. "A weapon?" he repeated, his voice hoarse. "Yes," Alel replied, "but it's not just any weapon. It's not something you can just use without understanding it first. It's a technology that's been buried for centuries, and you have access to it." Jake shook his head. "I don't even know how to use it. I'm not a soldier, Alela. I'm not. Whatever you think I am." Lela stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "You are a soldier, Jake. Not in the way you think, but the sooner you accept your role, the sooner you'll understand what needs to be done." Jake's mind was reeling. He had never imagined being forced into a role like this. He had signed up for a mission of discovery, not to fight a war, let alone wield unknown alien technology. But now, with the weight of Allah's words hanging in the air, he knew there was no escaping his destiny. Allah continued, her voice now filled with urgency. "The enemy you're facing is unlike any you've encountered before. They have the power to control entire systems, to manipulate entire populations without anyone knowing. They've already begun spreading their influence, and soon they'll have humanity under their control." Jake swallowed hard. "So what's the plan? How do we stop them?" Allah's eyes hardened, a glint of something dangerous in them. "Start by activating the technology hidden inside you. You need to unlock its full potential, Jake. Only then can you fight back. Only then can we stand a chance." Jake took a step back, his mind trying to piece together everything Alel was saying. "And how do we unlock it? What do you need me to do?" Allah's lips curled into a cold smile. "You need to trust me. Trust that everything I've told you is true. The technology is inside you. All I have to do is help you activate it. But it's not as simple as flipping a switch. It's a process, and it will require all your focus, all your willpower. One wrong move, and the technology could be lost to us forever." Jake's chest tightened at the thought. The pressure of it all felt suffocating. What if this was humanity's last hope? How could he turn back now? "I'll do it," Jake said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "Whatever it takes," Ella nodded, her expression unreadable. "Good, but there's one more thing you need to understand. Technology inside you is not just a tool. It's a living force, something that has been waiting for the right person to unlock it. It will respond to your emotions, your fears, your desires. If you can't control them, it will control you." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, it will control me?" Allah's gaze was unwavering. "The technology inside you is sentient. Jake, it's ancient, powerful, and it has its own will. If you let it, it could take over your mind, your body, and your soul. You will have to fight to keep control of it. It's the only way you'll survive." Jake's head spun as the gravity of her words sank in. The technology he was supposed to wield wasn't just a tool, it was something alive, something that could potentially destroy him if he wasn't careful. "I understand," Jake said, though he wasn't sure he did. Ayla stepped back, her fingers hovering over a control panel on the wall. "We'll begin the activation. Process in stages. I'll guide you through it, step by step. But be warned, Jake, once we start, there's no going back. You'll either succeed or you'll lose everything." Jake nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. There was no other choice. He was in this now, whether he liked it or not. Ella activated the console, the room filled with a soft humming sound. The lights flickered, and Jake felt a strange sensation stirred deep within him. It was as if the air itself was alive with energy. The technology inside him was waking up, responding to Allah's commands, and Jake could feel the power surging through him. But as the power grew, so did the feeling of danger. This was no simple mission, no ordinary fight. This was something far more personal and far more dangerous. And as the first wave of energy hit him, Jake realized something. The battle for humanity's survival wasn't just about saving the world. It was about saving himself. The air inside the ship had never felt heavier. The hum of the engines, a constant reminder of the vast emptiness outside. Jake had been through the worst of it, he thought. He had unlocked the power buried inside him, felt the strange alien energy surge through his veins. He had taken the first steps toward understanding the technology that had been hidden for centuries. The technology that was now his burden to control. But with each passing hour, Jake's confidence wavered. The more he trusted Alela, the more questions arose. She had been his guide, his mentor, the one who showed him the ropes. She had spoken of humanity's survival, of their war with the invaders. She had made him feel like he was part of something important. But now, a gnawing doubt settled in his stomach. Something wasn't right. Not with her. Not with any of it. He had come to see Alela as the one person he could rely on in the storm of confusion and danger. But the more he learned about the mission and about the power inside him, the more he wondered if there were pieces of the puzzle. She hadn't shown him as Jake walked down the narrow corridor of the ship. The sound of his boots echoed, each step a reminder that he was walking deeper into a trap. He had no idea where to turn or who to trust. It had all started out so simple. An exploration mission, a chance to be part of something extraordinary. But now, it was all about survival his own, and possibly everyone's. The door to Alice's quarters slid open before he could even knock. She was sitting at her desk, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface, the light casting strange shadows on her face. "Jake," she greeted him without looking up, her voice as smooth as ever. "I was expecting you." Jake stood in the doorway, his heart pounding. There was something off about her, the way she spoke. The way she avoided eye contact, it was almost as if she were preparing to say something she wasn't sure how to say. "You need to tell me the truth," Jake said, his voice low, but steady. "Everything. About the mission. And about the technology inside me." Alela's fingers paused for a moment, and then she let out a soft sigh. She looked up at him, her eyes cold and calculating. "The truth, Jake, is far more complicated than you think. There are things you don't understand, things that are better." Left unsaid, Jake's eyes narrowed. "That's not good enough anymore. I deserve to know." Alela stood, her movements smooth and deliberate. "You're right, you do deserve to know. But the truth comes with consequences. You can't unlearn what I'm about to tell you." Her words hit him like a physical blow. His throat tightened, but he didn't back down. "What is it?" Alela took a step forward, and for the first time Jake saw something flicker in her eyes, something he couldn't place. It wasn't just coldness. It was something darker. "I've never been fully honest with you, Jake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "From the very beginning, I've been manipulating you. This mission, everything about it, was never just about saving humanity. It was about using you, about exploiting the power inside you for a far darker purpose." Jake's stomach dropped. The words she had spoken, the mission, everything he thought he understood, it was all a lie. Alela had known all along, and she had been playing him like a puppet. "No," Jake said, his voice cracking as the weight of her betrayal sank in. You used me." Alela's expression hardened. "I didn't want to, Jake, but it was necessary. You were always going to be the key. You were never meant to be just a passenger. You were meant to be the weapon. It's a tool that would give us the power to control everything." "Control everything?" Jake echoed, his voice shaking. "You lied to me. You told me I was helping humanity. Told me I was doing something important." Alela took a step closer, her voice soft but filled with a cold finality. "And you did help. You helped unlock the power inside you. You helped us awaken the force that will allow us to take control of the galaxy. You're no hero, Jake. You're nothing but a vessel for the power that will allow us to reign over everything." Stumbled back, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. "This is insane. I won't help you, so I won't be your weapon." Alela's lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't one of warmth. It was the smile of someone who had already won. "You already have, Jake. You've already given me everything I need." The room seemed to spin as Jake tried to make sense of it. All. The realization hit him with full force. Sela had never been his ally. She had never cared about humanity's survival. She had cared only about using his power, using him as a means to an end. "You can't control me," Jake spat, his voice filled with defiance. "I won't let you." Allah's gaze remained steady, almost pitying. "You don't understand, Jake. You never had a choice." Jake felt the surge of power inside him, the technology that had been awakened, and for the first time he understood its true nature. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of destruction, a force that could tear everything apart if he'd let it. But Alela had been right about one thing: he couldn't go back. Not now. His hand trembled as he reached for the console that controlled the ship's systems. If he was going to survive, if humanity was going to survive, he would have to destroy everything she had planned. But in doing so, he knew there was no turning back. This was no longer about saving the world. It was about stopping a war that had already begun, and stopping Alela, the woman who had betrayed him. With a single movement, Jake shut down the console. Allah's eyes widened in shock. Oh. But the damage had already been done. The war was about to become personal. The ship was quiet, eerily so, as if it were holding its breath. Jake stood in the heart of the control room, his fingers twitching at the controls. His mind raced, his thoughts tangled with confusion, anger, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Ayla had used him. Technology inside him, the power he had been convinced was meant for good, was nothing more than a weapon, tool for domination. She had manipulated him, twisted him into playing her game, and now, the only thing left to do was end it. But Jake knew the real battle had only just begun. He could feel the alien power coursing through him, vibrating with intensity, with raw energy that both frightened and exhilarated him. It was a force that could tear the universe apart. But with it came the understanding that, for the first time in his life, Jake was no longer a passive participant. He had been shaped into something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And now Alela had pushed him to the edge. He turned around as the door to the control room slid open with a quiet hiss. There she was, Alela, standing in the doorway, her presence as commanding as ever. The strange alien glow in her eyes was sharper than before, her movements precise and controlled, as if she was the only one who truly understood the stakes of this moment. She had always been calm, always in control. But now there was something different in her gaze, something desperate. "You've made a mistake, Jake," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper but filled with a cold finality. She stepped into the room, her eyes locking onto his. "Can't stop what's already in motion." Jake's breath hitched. The weight of her words seemed to freeze the air around them. She was right, he was standing on the precipice of something far bigger than himself. But there was one thing she didn't understand. I had nothing left to lose. "I'm not going to be your weapon," Jake said, his voice steady, but his heart pounding in his chest. "I'm not going to let you use me. You've already taken enough." Allah's lips curled into a smile, but it was not one of warmth or victory. It was the smile of someone who had already accepted the inevitable. "You think you have a choice? Jake, you've already given everything. You've already unleashed the power, and you don't have the strength to stop it now." Jake clenched his fists. He could feel the technology inside him pulsing, reacting to his emotions. It was responding to his fear, to his anger, to his need for control. The power was his, but it was also slipping through his fingers like sand in the wind. "I'm done following you," Jake said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I don't care what happens anymore. I'm not your puppet." Ella stepped closer, her face inches from his. "You never were," she whispered, her voice cold and filled with a kind of sorrow that Jake had never expected. "You were always meant to lead, but you were too weak to see it. You were too human to understand the role you were meant to play." Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself. This was it. It's the final test. The confrontation that would decide everything. Alela had manipulated him, used him, and now it was time for him to make his own choices. "No," Jake said, his voice growing stronger. I'm not weak. I was just too blind to see what you were really doing, but now I see the truth. His hands trembled, but only for a moment. He reached out, his fingers brushing the console, and for the first time, he felt the full weight of the power inside him. It was alive, pulsing, waiting for his command. The force inside him didn't belong to Alit, belonged to him. Ala's eyes widened in shock. You can't control it, Jake. You're not strong enough. Jake looked her in the eye, and for the first time he felt the weight of his own power. Watch me. The ship groaned as the energy in the room shifted. Jake could feel the power swirling around him, a storm of raw force and energy that was threatening to tear the ship apart. But Jake wasn't afraid. He wasn't going to let Alela control him anymore. He was the one in control now. The console flared to life, the holographic screens flashing as the ship's systems hummed with power. The ship trembled as the force within Jake reached its peak. He felt the energy pulsing, swirling around him, waiting for his command. Goodbye, Alela, Jake said, his voice calm, resolute. This ends now. He pressed the control, and the ship began to shake violently. Ala's eyes filled with panic. She reached out, her hand trembling, but it was too late. Jake had taken control. Power inside him no longer a weapon for her was now his to wield. A moment later, the ship's systems began to malfunction. Lights flickered, the humming engines faltered, and the entire structure seemed to groan as it was ripped apart by the force Jake had unleashed. He felt Allah's presence behind him, the realization dawning that she could no longer control him. You can't, Ella said, her voice breaking as the ship shook around them. You're killing us both. But Jake didn't flinch, wasn't just fighting for his survival anymore. He was fighting for freedom, the freedom to choose his own path. He had chosen to fight back, to take control of his fate, no matter the cost. And in that moment, Jake knew he wasn't just fighting for humanity. He was fighting for himself, for his freedom, for his future. With one final push, Jake released the energy from deep within, and the ship's systems exploded in a burst of light. The ship fell silent, and for the first time in his life, Jake felt at peace. He had made his choice.